right? But he's a PFL play-by-play announcer on Twitter at Real OC Sports. He is Sean O'Connell, my near and dear friend. He's probably the cruelest person in my life to me. I mean, he just insult after insult after insult. But I also think he loves me more than most people in my life. So it's kind of, it's a give and take sort of scenario. Mr. Sean O'Connell, how are you this morning?
Zakariah, how are you? Lovely to speak to you and hear your dulcet tones on the radio airwaves.
See, you're nice. This is what you do. You're nice like in public and like around people like my mom or my friends. You're super nice to me. And then when it's just me and you, that's when the insults come out. So you come off as like, oh, I love Sean. Sean's great. But really, you're mean.
No, I'm incredibly mean to you, but you need that in your life, okay? Because your sense of self is the most outsized and inflated relative to who you actually are of anyone that I actually know in life. So you need something to bring balance.
Okay.
And that's me. I'm bringing balance to the force.
All right, fair enough. So I'm with my man Jay Mars here, and we were talking about, I remember this vividly when I think I was an intern or maybe I was doing like updates or something, and you had a show at that other station in San Francisco, and you told me, you're telling me that if I gave you $10,000 to just punch you in the face, you wouldn't take it. And I said no. And so I asked Jay, he's a lover, not a fighter like me, and he said that his threshold would be like 50 grand. And I think that's probably where I would set it. But as a fighter, just explain to the audience of people that are okay with just getting beat up or punched or abused or whatever, like how you can just do that and it's like not a big deal. Because for me and Jay, and I'm speaking for him, it's a huge deal.
Well, it's not dissimilar from like the people who run marathons for fun,
Interesting.
or triathletes. For everyone else, that is torture. Even for fighters, right? The running, the swimming, the biking, that kind of stuff is a necessary evil to get yourself in better shape. But no one enjoys it. No one likes it. No one volunteers to do it. And yet there are literally millions of people who run recreationally, who just, the thing that gets their endorphins going in the morning is to wake up before the sun and to put on whatever weather-appropriate clothing they have, and then they just hit the road with some, reflective flashers on their shoes, and oftentimes they'll be wearing some squirrely-looking little headband, and they're out there running on the side of the road, braving the elements, braving traffic, and that's what they do. It's just human beings choose weird things sometimes.
Yeah, you're all masochists. You're all masochists. I have different ways of getting my endorphins out, okay? And it's not through pain. It's through pleasure.
Well, some people enjoy that, running for 4 hours. Some people like fighting for 15 minutes. And I would maintain that fighting for 15 minutes is actually far more sane than going and running for 4 hours.
All right, we'll get into some MMA. We'll get into some PFL talk here in a second. But you also work for the Pac-12 network. And what the hell is going on? You know I'm a Cal, very proud Cal alum. What the hell is going on with what used to be the Pac-8 and then the Pac-10, then the Pac-12? Now what? We're going to go back down to Pac-10? Might it be the Pac-nothing? What is going on with the news that UCLA and USC are going to be exiting the Pac-12?
Well, it's going to be the Pac-10 or the Pac-nothing, if you ask me. Look, USC and UCLA blindsided everyone now 3.5 weeks ago, making the announcement that they're chasing the revenue and they're going to join the Big Ten. For the Big Ten, it makes sense. You lock down an LA television media market. You get them to be part of your conference. You expand your footprint all the way to the West Coast. Brings in, better recruits, yada, yada, yada. It's a massively devastating move for the remaining teams and then what was the Pac-12 conference. But it just is what it is. USC and UCLA were projected to make on their next Pac-12 television deal anywhere from, 40 on the low end to 75 on the high end, $1 million per year. And now they're going to be getting over 100 in the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. Their addition to the Big Ten is a net positive for all the Big Ten schools. So that conference now stretches from New Jersey to Los Angeles, and it's going to be distributing $100 million a year to its member institutions. So it's all about money now, which is unfortunate, right? We know this in sports. We know this even in college sports, that it's all about the money now. But when you actually see it put into practice, it's a slap in the face like this for traditionalists or people who've been fans of a conference for however long.
Yeah, I mean, it's always follow the money. It's just so depressing. And there's nothing about tradition, nothing, everything, the likeness stuff. I mean, I just feel like college sports is like, it had gone along so long with getting away with all sorts of stuff, and then now everything's getting brought, and it's worse than it was before. I mean, I guess maybe not. I mean, it's better for the players and stuff like that, but yeah, it's always follow the money. Now, you are a Salt Lake City resident, and the Jazz are basically fire selling, shipping off Rudy Gobert. Boy, what a haul they got back from the Timberwolves. But Donovan Mitchell has been in the news and has been semi-linked to the Kings, and I'm out here in Sacramento. I feel like he could be the best player on a championship team. How do you feel about Donovan Mitchell, and how do you think he would do on a team like the Kings?
Well, look, Donovan Mitchell is a spectacular player, but he's a one side of the floor spectacular player.
You're
right?
that guy. He's the defense, huh?
He doesn't play defense, right? I mean, Donovan Mitchell can be James Harden for you, but he can't be LeBron James or Kawhi Leonard for you, right? Like, there's a big time difference between, there's a tier of players, right? Best player in the game is usually reserved for people that are willing to play a little bit of defense. There's some exceptions there, right? Steph Curry isn't exactly a lockdown defensive presence, but Donovan Mitchell as like the primary number one option, biggest star player on your team, probably is going to make a deep playoff run for you. Like, but is he going to deliver a championship? That's going to require some pretty creative roster building around him. And in today's NBA, again, follow the money. That means you're probably going to have to be willing to go into a luxury tax because you're going to have to pay excellent players to surround Donovan Mitchell. And that's not a slight at Donovan Mitchell. You got to do that with everybody. In today's NBA, there's no more one star on a team making the playoffs. I mean, I guess I can kill my own argument by saying Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks were able to pull it off, but I feel like that's a rarity, and Donovan Mitchell is no Greek freak. So to make a short answer long, Donovan Mitchell can be a linchpin, a very important piece on an absolutely excellent team. But if you want to win a championship with Donovan Mitchell, you better surround him with other all-star pieces, guys like, well, Rudy Gobert, who he had a hard time coexisting with, and who is now in Minnesota, where he will never win a championship.
Zakariah here on the Carmichael Day Show with Jason Ross, joined by Sean O'Connell, Sirius XM host, PFL play-by-play announcer. We'll get into some fighting talk here in a second, OC. But I want to ask you about this 49ers situation. I can't remember a scenario. I mean, I guess the thing that I keep going back to is Garoppolo when he was with the Patriots, and the Patriots were trying to decide whether or not they need to move on to Garoppolo, and Brady obviously was not even close to washed up and probably won 3 Super Bowls since that conversation. But the Niners quarterback situation seems to be very intriguing to me. I wonder where you're at when it comes to Jimmy G, who ironically is also part of that, and Trey Lance. The shoulder injury obviously hindered the trade value and market and a lot of these teams have now assessed their quarterback position. But where are you at with the Niners and Jimmy G and Trey Lance, and what exactly you think they should do and what you think they're going to do?
Well, I will go back to the 49ers' most recent failed Super Bowl bid, where Jimmy Garoppolo had 2 opportunities to hit throws that would extend drives or score touchdowns that would have made the San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl champions, right? And I said, in that moment, you and I had this argument. When Jimmy G misses 2 throws in a Super Bowl that could have made you a Super Bowl champion, that means it's time to move on from Jimmy G. And at that time, they didn't have Trey Lance on the roster. And you and many other people were like, what are you talking about? You can't do that. You can't turn the page on a guy. If someone gets to that point and proves to you that they're not ready to win, and you have the best defense in the National Football League, you have the best tight end in the National Football League, you got an incredible running game and a coordinator to go along with it that makes everybody better, you have to make sure that your quarterback is a net positive. He's not the thing that is missing those plays. You don't have to be like a Patrick Mahomes. You don't have to be somebody who's able to extend plays and work magic in the pocket. You just have to be a guy who doesn't miss when the moment is there. And Jimmy G proved to the San Francisco 49ers and their fans years ago that he's the guy who misses, right? You only pass this way once or twice in a player's career, unless you're Tom Brady. You only get to that stage once or twice, and you cannot choke when the moment is there. And if you do, and it's early in your career, then everybody should understand, like, all right, it's not his fault that we got here. It's everyone else's fault that we got here, right? It's the fact that we had the best defense and the best running game and the best tight end. He helped us get here, but when the moment was his, and it was time for that man to step up and play at the same level as the rest of his teammates, who have all excelled above and beyond their contracts and above and beyond the expectations, he wasn't able to do so on two separate throws. And I get it. You can't reduce an entire career to two separate throws. But for quarterbacks, when your legacy is built on Super Bowl wins, whether that's fair or not, he proved to everyone he wasn't able to do it. So now that you have a guy who may or may not be the next big thing, you got to move on. Jimmy G will be a good quarterback for a good team. He'll never be a great quarterback for a Super Bowl winning team. And that's what the San Francisco 49ers need when they have the rest of the talent on the roster. You got the best tackle in all of football. You got the best tight end in all of football, or one of the two best tight ends in all of football. You have to take advantage of these windows because they're tiny in the NFL. And Jimmy G is not that dude. I don't know if Trey Lance is either, but I'd rather go with the devil I don't know than the devil I do, because the devil you know in Jimmy Garoppolo has proven to you he's not that guy.
Yeah, 2 NFC championship games in the Super Bowl. They better hope Trey Area gets him there. You were too long-winded, Sean. I love you, but I was going to ask you about fighting. I can't now because I have to go.
Oh,
but,
what a shame. I know how much you love to talk about MMA, so I'm sure it breaks your heart that we don't have
I mean, nobody breaks down fighting better than me. I know about the grapple, get him on the floor or do it up top. You know what I'm saying? There's two different kinds of fights. You know what I mean?
We don't have to talk about fights. I just want you to tell everyone about the bet we had with. You thought your headlock was so strong.
Oh, yeah, that didn't work out well.
Get me in a headlock and keep me there.
All right, I'll do that after the break. I'll admit it. I will admit it on radio. I will. On Twitter, at RealOC Sports, he is Sean O'Connell. Check out his Sirius XM Pac-12 or whatever the hell it's going to be. And also check him out, PFL, Professional Fighters League, which he won $1 million in New York. And I could have been there, and I did not, but that's the story for another day. Sean, thank you for joining me, sir.
All right, love you, man.
There you go. Love you too. Sean O'Connell. All right. Coming up next.